YouTubers, Pastorbobncc. Hey, today we're going to do a little bit of talking about our calling. You know, a lot of us know that we're saved and we're living a pretty good life, but we're not really putting too much attention on our calling. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about. We're going to take our scripture from Mark 1:16-18. This is what it says. Now as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew his brother casting their nets into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said unto them, Come ye after me, and I will make you become fishers of men. And straightway they forsook their nets and followed him. So we actually had four people. When you look at the other Gospels, we had Peter and Andrew. Then we had James and John. They were partners in this fishing business. And when the Lord called them, he told them at that time to put down their nets on the other side of the boat, and they literally caught the biggest catch that they ever caught. And God did that to supply the needs of both those families while those men were gone, following Jesus. And I have no doubt that he blessed that business, and it probably thrived more without them than as if they had been there. But what he said to them was, Come with me, follow me, and I'm going to make you fishers of men. People, every single one of us, every single born-again believer is a fisher of men. And if you have not been working at that, you need to start, because that's what you're called to do. Every one of us, that's our calling. So listen, what's the key to fishing? I mean, most of you, I'm sure, have gone fishing. I know I love to fish. I don't do it near as much as I should. But what's the key to fishing? And the answer, of course, is bait. It doesn't matter how good a rod and reel you have. Doesn't matter if you got the best Fenwick rod and Garcia reel. Doesn't matter what you got. Equipment doesn't matter. What matters is bait. I mean, you can have a stick with a line on the end and a hook, and if you have the right bait, you're going to catch a fish. So what you have to discover in order to be a fisher of men is you have to find the bait that works for you. And it took me a long time to find the bait that worked for me. But that's what you have to do. You guys remember here a while back I was up on the Feather River a couple months ago, and I made those videos on the Feather River. Well, listen, I did a little bit of fishing, and I couldn't get them fish to bite anything. And finally I found this one spot. It was a spot where I made a couple of the videos, and I cast out, and people, I'm serious, there was a trout that came across that river that followed my bait right up to me, right up to the edge. And this guy was probably about maybe 2 feet long, about that big around. He was huge. And he wouldn't bite anything I put in there, nothing. He would follow it, but he wouldn't bite it. I mean, at one point I got out my SIG 40 and I was getting ready to shoot him when he come up to the edge. I was going to shoot him. But then I thought, well, you know what, there's fishermen all up and down this canyon. They hear a gun go off, everybody would probably panic, so I didn't do that. But I wanted to. If the bait didn't work, I was going to shoot him. So anyway, so listen, the trick is to find the bait that works for you. So listen, I have a couple of bait that I use, and they've always worked for me. And number one is current events. What's going on in the world? And whenever I hear somebody in a conversation about, you know, these shootings that are going on, about this happening, about Israel, about China might nuke, about anything, I tell them, I say, you know, that's written in the Bible thousands of years ago. And then we'll strike up a conversation. I'll say, listen, I've got a really good book on this subject. Maybe you'd like to read it. And so I always have my books. You know, I have a ton of books. I have a pretty extensive library. But I will give them a book that has to do with what we're talking about. And most non-believers, they will sit down and they'll just get totally interested in this book and they'll read it. I always put my address label right in here too, so if I don't get it back, they'll know where they stole it from. But anyway, books. I use books to introduce people to the gospel. And another one that I've told you guys about before that I just absolutely love is this right here. Money. But they're not money, they're tracks. Money tracks. These things are the best things ever. I mean, anytime I'm going to go someplace where I know I'm going to be on an elevator, I will fold up a bunch of these and I'll take it with me and I'll just drop them in that elevator. And I'm serious, I've been in buildings with elevators and dropped these things in the elevator and came back down and found somebody outside the building sitting down somewhere like at a fountain having this track reading it. No one throws these away, they're too cool. They keep them, they show everybody, hey look, hey, you want 10 bucks? And then they, you know, it's a joke, but people listen. These things are the best tracts you will ever use. And you can get them at your local Bible bookstore. And if not, I'll leave the link down below, the website where you can go get these. And you can just Google money tracts and tons of companies come up. But these are the best things. Well, you can go into Walmart and throw these on the floor in Walmart. I mean, anything. They're awesome. I'll stop by the magazine rack or the book rack at any store I'm at, and I'll have a pocket full of regular tracts, and I'll just put them right in the middle of a book. I'll just open up a book like I'm looking at and put a tract inside. And whoever buys that book will get the tract. Listen, just find the bait that works for you. Whatever works for you, that's what you use. So listen to this. This is what it says in Mark 2-14. As he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting on the receptive customs, and said unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. Now listen. Matthew had a good job. He was collecting taxes for the Romans. And he collected far more than the Romans required. He probably had a six-figure income by today's standards. But you know what? Something was missing from his life. And when Jesus said, Come, follow me, he did, because something was missing in his life. And what did Jesus turn Matthew into? A fisher of men. Just like all 11 of his disciples all became fishers of men. So listen, something else that works for me, another piece of bait that I use, is complainers. Whenever I'm somewhere and I hear somebody complaining, when I hear a complainer, I zero right in on that person. And you know what? I use something I learned from Dr. Phil. I don't know if you guys remember Dr. Phil, but Dr. Phil had a saying, and he used to always say, how's that working out for you? I mean, they're complaining about everything, and you go, well, what have you done to fix that? What action have you taken? Well, Well, how's that working for you? Well, it's not working. And then I always tell them, if things in your life aren't working, maybe it's time to give God a try. Followed up by a cool track. But listen, whenever I hear anybody complaining, I find out what's wrong. I say, what's the matter? Strike up a conversation, find out what's wrong with them. And then in the end, when you say, well, you know what? Maybe you need to change things. If that's not working for you, maybe it's time to give God a try. But those are the 3 pieces of bait that work for me. Current events, giving out books, dropping tracts anywhere I can drop them, and passing out tracts. And complainers, if you complain, I'm going to nail you. Those are 3 things that work for me. Find the bait that works for you. Now this is the key. This is the key to becoming a fisher of men. Just do it. Just do it. Just start. Go get you some tracts and start. That's all you got to do. Start. And pretty soon it'll become a habit and you'll love doing it. And this is another key to becoming a fisher of men. You fish. You get your bait and you cast out your line, but you never, ever, ever worry about the results. Don't worry about if you're going to catch anything. You don't worry about the results. That's God's job. You just fish. Just go out there and fish. This is the last thing that you need to realize about becoming a fisher of men. When you're out there in the trenches, when you get involved in people's lives, never, ever, ever let them rub off on you. You always make sure that you rub off on them. Anyway, listen. Every single one of us is called to be a fisher of men. Just do it. If you've never done it before, go buy you some of these money tracks. These are the best things ever. And they're effective and they work. Buy you some money tracks. Get you some real tracks. You know, most of the time, you can walk by any church and just walk in the front door. Just walk in the front door of any church, and they'll normally have about 100 tracks in the thing right there, and they don't care if you take them as long as you're going to pass them out. Listen, get started. Become a fisher of men. And one of these days, when you leave this life, you're going to get to heaven, and the Lord's going to say to you, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You are a fisher of men." And then you're also going to have other people walk up to you and say, "Hey, I'm here because you dropped that $10 track in Walmart." Anyway, I just want to give you something to think about. Heaven or hell, you choose. Just remember, once you take your last breath, it's a done deal.